Have you worked out how, I suppose when you came in on Monday, how that game went on Saturday, how you lost it after controlling it for so long in the second half?
Yeah, if you using the boxing match parlance I used after the game, if you don't knock people out when you get the opportunity, and we had plenty of opportunity in the second half in particular to, take it well out of reach. We didn't do that, and then we succumbed to the pressure we got put on, which is normal in a Welsh derby. Well, not succumbing to it, but the pressure when people are in touch in the last 5 minutes, where pressure does strange things to people, and you've got, first game a little bit less battle hardened, a little bit less experience in places. It basically all results in what you saw. So it's ancient history now. All we can do is move forward. Yeah, disappointing because, as I said, post game, to have so much control and not finish the job was really disappointing.
You move forward, what are you expecting this weekend?
Almost the opposite in a way. I think the breakdown is still hotly contested. I think URC, that's a given. Big physical people that play a particular game slightly different to a lot of the other South African teams, where they want to be positive. They've got good athletes. They'll offload. They'll try and keep the game quick. They'll try and stretch you with kicking and passing and offloading. So yeah, it's going to be a defensive challenge for us, which is similar to what we experienced out there. But the good thing is we've experienced it, and we've won in against that type of game. So we should take a lot of belief the fact that we can do it, and we'll have to do it again because they're a very good team and been in that final shake-up since they've been in the URC. So you're going up against a very tough opponent.
You used the gender effect a good effect last season in terms of the two games you played there. Will that come into it again? You going back there this weekend?
Well, it's, in relation to there's a necessity to go back. It's not by design in relation to we're playing the Stormers, as it were. But yeah, look, you want to like we saw last week with the Dragons. You want to use everything that you've got. The crowd, and I've always loved the crowd there. It's been fantastic, and people coming out to watch us, is really, really important in all games, but particularly in games where you can use the atmosphere and the proximity to the pitch to your advantage. So, yeah, hopefully a lot of people come to watch.
Bit of sort of just news. Anybody back? How are you looking in terms of bodies and anybody out last week?
Yeah, we've got a couple back. So Garen Phillips is back. Ben Warren is back, which is good. We've had Keelan Giles running around on the pitch, but he's not ready. So that's been good to see him out there. Kieran Hardy's been out on the pitch this week, not quite ready, but he's back. So yeah, we're getting a few back. As I said at the very start, we're hoping to have the majority back by the end of this block. It happens to be our toughest block, but that's just the way it goes. But yeah, hopefully, from this point on, touch wood, we don't pick up too much. Hopefully, the significant injuries we've got, start to come to an end.
Thank you, Toby. Good luck on the weekend.
Thanks, Gareth. Cheers, man.
Hi, Toby. How are you?
Good, thanks. You?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Obviously, we're speaking of Jack Walsh in a bit. Obviously, had a really good game on the weekend. Since he's been at the club, do you feel like he's given the back line a bit of an extra dimension? Because he's a bit different to other players, isn't he, in the way he sort of, in terms of his style, if you see what I mean? Yeah, no, I mean,
he's a good... I mean, he is what the sum of his parts, right? So he's come from Exeter, where they play ball in hand, so he suited that. He's played at 10 and 15 there and played 10 and 15 for us. And he comes from a rugby league background, so he's used to be confrontational and playing up in people's faces, and that skill set under pressure is what his point of difference is. So where he's really grown, I think, is in the game management and understanding in the last couple of years here. He was a good rugby player and has been throughout, but now he's adding nous and communication, and he's a good talker and a good general. So yeah, I think we're really lucky to have him, and he's critical for the game that we're trying to play, for sure.
Yeah, obviously you beat the Stormers away last season. Just wondering, like when the South African teams first came in, there was this aura about them, because you've had a couple of wins against them, home and away. Mm-hmm. What's that done for like the confidence going into, because you're playing it? I know they're without some of their Springboks, but they're still loaded with top players. So sure. Have those results really given you sort of a bit of a boost and a bit of confidence facing them this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone talks about, and I know it gets quoted about, wage caps and capability of squads, but what people often miss out is, from a squad depth point of view, yeah, they might not have massive wage caps, but the cost of living and what they get paid is relevant to where they are, and they've got a massive player base. So whoever puts on a Stormers shirt, a Bulls shirt, a Shark shirt, it doesn't really matter, all of them, they're very passionate people. They've been versed around a sort of game that's confrontational, abrasive, and with the inclusion of the Sevens programme in South Africa, which we witness quite a lot from where we stay in Stellenbosch, they've got some unbelievable athletes. So it doesn't really matter, who's there, but it's going to be, if they get their own way, they're going to be a handful. So to win over there and win against those sort of teams gives you confidence. And it also builds self-belief. And I think one of the big things around all of those sort of firsts, if you like, once you've done them, it can be done. And there's a famous coaching phrase, I think it's something along the lines of, if you believe you can or you can't, you're probably right. And I think that's probably evident in around this sort of fixture. And it's a bit like winning a European game last year, for the first time, and getting into the top 8 and all that sort of stuff. The more you achieve what hasn't been achieved before, the more it becomes the norm.
Yeah, obviously you announced yesterday Vardy Boshoff is coming back in. This relationship with the Cheetahs, where you're able to drop in, a few, really good South African players, it's been really beneficial, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think fair play. Obviously it's an arrangement we have. And you've got to be creative, and try and keep competitiveness within your squad, and that competitiveness can be just the fact you have 30 players that can train against each other, because the squads are that thin. And coming a Monday after you've especially early on in the season, you just can't get, you can't even get 25 players out there, so it's really, really tough. So however you can grow your numbers, and the right sort of numbers, not just academy bodies that aren't ready, the more competitive you can be. The better, quicker you learn, and it becomes much, much better, and you get more strength in depth for competition for places. So it's a win-win. So yeah, we're obviously really grateful that we have that opportunity. I know others don't, and that helps us to maintain our competitiveness for sure.
Yeah, Y11 own a stake in the Hurricanes as well. So is there potential to do something similar with with players from the Hurricanes, perhaps? We've
certainly looked at it. What's difficult there is the marrying up of seasons and getting the right people, because there has to be a fit for both sides, right? Look, even with the Cheetahs, there has to be mutual benefit. It's not just us, taking and not giving back. So for example, that academy boys went over there, we've spoken to their coaches, we've had a look at their program, and so we can share IP and all that sort of stuff. So it has to be a fit on both sides. But yeah, I'm not fussy where we get good players from. If we can get good players, that's all good.
Yeah, just finally, but on the Cheetahs link up, obviously it's helped you get in some quality players in, but send in, for example, young props over there, young second rows, that's invaluable, isn't it? Because they get an experience out there which they can't really get in Wales, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, Lou Jones, second row, who has come back a different player, for sure, because he's had to run a line out with people he doesn't know, step into a big boys world. They train slightly different to us, so he's got now experience of different sorts of training. I've not asked him which one he prefers, and he hasn't answered me, but that's no reason why he's not been selected. But from that point of view, we want players to grow up, and part of growing up, as we all know in our own lives, is about gaining experiences, and that really allows them to see what their potential really is.
Brilliant. Thanks, Toby, and good luck in the weekend.
Thank you. Cheers, Steph. Thanks. All good? Are we going?
Toby.
Hello, Rich. All right, sorry, mate.
Hiya. Just wanted to ask, how do you really look to right the wrongs of last week as such? You know, you played so well for such a long period of time, and it was just that last little bit at the end, really. How do we kind of put that right this weekend?
Play better in the first 70 and make sure you play for 80 is the short answer. We've talked about that. There's a natural drop-off early in seasons, but you've got to have a ruthless mentality, and it's slapped us around the face hard, and we're really disappointed about that. But if that means that we don't make the mistake again, then that, we pride ourselves on finishing games strong. If I will never accept the situation we found ourselves in last week, and we were really disappointed and disappointed in ourselves. But the learning is, if we don't make that mistake for the rest of the season, then touch wood, we can accept that for a little bit.
And I was going to ask you about sort of how your team responds to these kind of big games as such, against in a game where perhaps maybe you're not the favourites that go in. You seem to pull off those performances. Is it a case this season now of trying to come into those games the same manner on both fronts?
It's a really interesting question, because I think, not us necessarily, but I think generally people enjoy being the happy underdog, right? Because there's less expectation. If you look at the Premier League in football, we look at Arsenal. For years were happy to be that happy underdog, but now the expectation is that they have to win it. All of a sudden it feels a little bit different. Whether they do or not, we'll see. But ultimately ultimately you need to keep making progress, and at some point you have to flip between being the expectant favourite and the happy underdog. And nothing does that more than by winning, and winning consistently, because you get used to it. The flip side of it, as you say, people pay you more respect, and that's something psychologically you have to get used to and be ready for and prepare for and train for and experience, because that feels completely different. Where it's a lot easier to play out of fear with no expectation than it is to play without fear and have it all. And that's what, and the people that do that are normally the champion winning sides, or certainly people that are there every year. So that's something that, as the group evolves and the group gets better and continues to make progress, there's something that that's the next, or probably the psychological growth that everyone will need.
Is that something you call upon from some of the more experienced players in your squad, to kind of pass upon their knowledge to the younger players?
Yeah, dealing with pressure and different forms of pressure, certainly. But we're very deliberate. We actually take parts of that into our programme. We create those scenarios in order to experience them, and we back it up with knowledge and theory in classroom sessions to try and grow our leaders and experience people, and how you talk to people, how you diffuse pressure, how there's all part of it, and understand that it's all part of being an elite sportsman and being a high performer.
Well, watching your sort of behind-the-scenes videos that you put out in the last few weeks, I was just wondering what sort of role Owen Williams will play there this year, because you've obviously got a young fly half in Dan Edwards. You've got somebody who can play 15 and 10 very well, like Jack, and you've got the sort of seasoned international there as well. Sure. Watching those videos, Owen looked like he was very, he was a good communicator. He was talking a lot in the group and things like that. So I'm just wondering how you see his role there this year in relation to the other fly halves that you've got.
Owen Williams is a great player. He's been there and done it. He's got the experience that Richard was just talking about. I think he's extremely knowledgeable. He's got coach's mentality, which is fantastic. And up until his wrist surgery, which he had about a month ago, he would probably be one of the top trainers there. So the short answer is I just see him as a potential starting 10 for the team. However, what he is good, because he's been on the other side, is if he's not, he will help prepare the team for the weekend, whether that's being given information from as a water carrier like he did in Edinburgh away last year, or it's when there was one game where we didn't have, we've not had some of the coaches that there through various reasons. He's fulfilled that almost on-field coaching role as a support work, but ultimately he's first and foremost a player. And we've just come off of a session. He's fulfilled a couple of weeks now of training, and he looked like he did before he had his his little operations. So from that point of view, for me, he's absolutely selectable as the first choice 10 for sure.